striketh one. That's two.
Numbers, Guardian. Excellent. This is wonderful. Together as one. I love it. With 10 hunters like you, I could make the frontier safe again.
I'm calling it. Guardian, crush them. Two down. Well fought and well won. Three down.
What have I done? Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, everybody. David here, and in today's video, I'm going to showcase possibly my favorite build I've ever come up with. This has been ridiculously fun to play with, like insanely good. Imagine throwing a one-hit throwing knife and then following it up with a two-burst pulse rifle. What is there not to love? That's what we're going to be doing today. So without further ado, let me showcase the build, every sort of mod and weapon and perk and stuff that you need, and then some other stuff that's sort of interchangeable depending on how you want to play. And then we'll break down some plays, explain how to make the most of this build, how you should be playing with it, and all around just showcase this filthy build and what it can do. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is the build. We are using bottom tree folding gun. As you've probably worked out from the intro, you're going to need the weighted knife to be able to get those one-shot knives. And then we're pairing that with the Athrys' Embrace. This exotic is obtainable from a legendary lost sector. The legendary lost sector changes daily, so just keep an eye out for when the gauntlets are up. And my advice would be to do either the master version if you want to increase your chances of getting an exotic to drop, or if you want to farm them quickly and get through more faster, or if you're just not that high a light level, the legendary version is the easier version. If you've not obtained these already, it should be a guaranteed drop, so when a exotic does finally drop, it should be the Athrys' Embrace for your hunter. So with that said, the perk states that weighted knife grants a second bounce. This is criminally underrated, just this part of it. This is what allows you to get some ridiculous kills, banking knives around corners and just yeeting them across maps and just having a ridiculous amount of fun with it. Then rapid precision hits with your weapons grants weighted knife a significant damage bonus. That damage bonus allows you to body shot someone, a normal guardian, with just a knife straight to the body, but it also increases the precision damage of the knife. So then you can shut down some supers and stuff as well. But I just absolutely love these. These are my favorite exotics in the game by far. We're pairing that with the battler. So those three things are your must-haves. The weighted knife with the gauntlets and the battler with the blunt execution rounds. Damaging nearby combatants with a melee, that's damaging, not necessarily killing. Dramatically increases handling and damage. That damage doubles your damage for one burst, so it expires after a short duration, that's 10 seconds, because double zero counts. Or if you fire that burst, whether it hits or not. This does double the damage for your body shot burst as well, so that burst is going to do twice as much damage as it normally would, regardless if it's a precision hit or not. The basic setup for the build is that you want to hit someone in the face with a burst of the battler. Those three precision hits that a pulse rifle inherently has will proc the weighted knife buff. You can then body shot someone with the weighted knife, getting a kill, and then you can kill a second target with a 2 burst from the battler. That is the very basic setup. Now we're going to push it even further to make it even more ridiculous. We're then pairing that with this peace bond. This peace bond is also a 3-round burst, so getting a precision burst with this sidearm, just again 1 full burst, will proc the weighted knife buff. Then when we have swashbuckler on this, obviously getting that melee kill will increase the damage of this to a ×5, which melts people. Absolutely destroys them. So you could pair this with anything else that you want, like you could go a shotgun or whatever. Now if we break down the stats, we've obviously gone for 100 strength, just to get our knife back as much as possible, in case we don't get a precision hit with the knife. If we do get a precision hit, it obviously comes back straight away anyway. But you'll see in this gameplay there's times where I can get a precision kill with the knife, and then get a second target straight away with a body shot of the knife as well, which is awesome. I've been enjoying rocking at least 5 discipline because the incendiary grenades have been buffed recently, so they do a lot more damage. So then hitting someone with this grenade and then following up with a burst from the pulse rifle also gets you a kill. So just a lot of stuff again feeding into each other. You can use your general targeting and reload mods and so on, but some important ones: swift charge. Become charged with light by rapidly defeating combatants with pulse rifles and sidearms. So getting double kills with either of our weapons will make us charge with light. Getting a double kill with either weapon will also make a orb because they're masterworked. And then with taking charge, we can pick up that orb and get a second stack of charge with light straight away from the same 2 kills. That will also get us our health back because it's better already. Because we're not rocking a special weapon, we don't need any ammo perks, so we've went all in with getting our abilities back and stuff and our health back whenever we pick up orbs. Obviously high energy fire, so we can spend that charge that we have for extra weapon damage. And then we've actually gone with double bomber. You could go double outreach here if you want to invest fully into the knives. I was rocking this as well at some points and enjoying it just as much. So these mods make it so you get either your grenade or your melee back faster whenever you dodge. But because we're using the gambler's dodge, more often than not I only use my dodge when I'm near someone, purposely to get my knife back. So I felt like I was getting more bang for my buck out of bomber. You could also go stasis and rock the utility kickstart to just get your dodge back sooner. Just high recovery because we're going to be pushing up, being super aggressive as always, and high mobility to get your dodge back, so then if you do miss the knife you can dodge to get it back straight away. Another mod that I've tried out and have had a lot of fun and success with is also surprise attack. So whilst charged with light, reloading or readying a sidearm will consume all stacks of charge with light, convert them into stacks of a major damage buff. Like, I think major still undersells how potent this is. Those are depleted as you damage combatants with that sidearm. So this is basically whenever you get like rushed and you have to quickly swap to your sidearm, you'll just get increased damage, and that stacks with your swashbuckler, so you can just absolutely destroy people. Now that we've showcased the build, let's go to the gameplay and I'll break down exactly how the build works and then some advanced tips and so on. So as I said earlier, the basis of the build is very simple. You basically just want to hit precision hits with either of your weapons. That will proc the weighted knife buff, and then you can yeet that knife to get a body shot kill, which will proc the blunt execution rounds or swashbuckler ×5, and then you can just slay out from there. So first of all, let's just look at the pulse. I won't go into too much detail because I've made a video on this pulse rifle before, so I'll just break down my particular roll I'm using here. So this particular roll has perpetual motion and obviously the blunt execution rounds. Blunt execution rounds is obviously needed for the build to work. Now I'll quickly touch upon perpetual motion because it does sort of complement the build in a very unique way. I absolutely love this perk. So this perk gives you the boost to stability, handling and reload whenever you're in motion. So that's literally just a stray full count. it can go up to ×2, and at ×2 you'll get a +20 to handling and reload, and then a +10 to stability. And as you can see, my roll is already like cracked out on stability as it is. So this stacks, making it ridiculously consistent. Stability is very important on a pulse rifle because that makes your not only your burst tighter, but also the consecutive shots after your first one receive less and less bloom, so then they're even more accurate. This also stacks with the knock 'em down buff that bottom tree Gunslinger has, which is also a stability buff you get from precision kills. So this whole build just feeds into each other, which is why I love it so much. You're getting stability buffs left, right and center, you're getting like weapon damage buffs from getting precision kills, and you're getting your super back faster from getting precision hits. Like, there's just so much going on under the hood. Now the blunt execution rounds, obviously a very important perk for this build, but this does have some pros and cons, so I'm going to quickly list through those things just to be aware of. Cons first, it only procs in close range, so this is the biggest one. If you're yeeting your knife across the map, even if you've got the knife buff up and you're getting that kill, it won't proc the blunt execution rounds because you're not within range. The range works out to roughly the same amount you have to be in to dodge to get your knife back. It also can't refresh the buff during the 10 seconds that it's up. So you can see in this gameplay, there'll be times where I get a knife kill and then countdown goes down by like 5 seconds or something, and then I happen to get the opportunity to get another knife kill, but it doesn't refresh the buff. So once those 10 seconds are up, that's your window to use the pulse rifle in. There's also a few seconds cooldown after the 10 seconds is up, so you can't reproc it instantly. You have to wait 2 or 3 seconds before you can do it again, and obviously it goes away if you miss. If you proc the blunt executions buff but you miss your first burst, it does go away, and then you'll experience that cooldown and stuff before you can proc it again. But that's it for the con list. There's a hell of a lot more pros to this. So it activates on hits, not kills, which is awesome. So just getting a knife or melee hit will proc it, so that will make for an easy cleanup on the person you've just meleeed, or even on someone else. A 10-second timer is huge, because 00 counts. Even though it says 9, it is 10, and 10 seconds is a hell of a long time to have a damage buff up. This will allow you to actually go from one side of the map to the other on many of the maps in Destiny. It activates when stowed, which is incredible, and you also have that full 10-second timer to swap to the pulse to make use of the buff. So this pairs really well with this particular build, because you can get a knife kill with your sidearm out, getting ready to use swashbuckler, and if no one's nearby, you can then swap to the pulse and you've not lost the buff that the pulse has then. So it just works really well. And it also works incredibly well with just the normal weighted knife. You can body shot someone with just the normal weighted knife, so this is without the damage buff that the gauntlets give you. And that does 143 to the body. Because it's a melee hit, it still procs blunt execution rounds. You can body burst that same person for an easy cleanup, because you're doing 30 to the body per bullet, so that's 90 in total. So 103 plus 90 is going to kill any Guardian in the game, like easy. So now that we've looked at the pulse, let's break down the sidearm. So the sidearm is the Peace Bond, available from Iron Banner. My particular role again has rangefinder and swashbuckler. Obviously swashbuckler is very important to the build, getting that ×5 damage buff whenever you get a melee kill. Rangefinder on the sidearm is also incredible, boosting that range as much as possible. If you're going for a role of this, there should be one more Iron Banner up before the start of next season, but I do recommend going for as max range as possible. But when you do have swashbuckler active, it does 43 to the head, so that's a very easy guaranteed 2 burst against any Guardian. But what is also possible is that it can 2 burst from base against 6 resilience or lower, doing 33 per shot. So if you hit all headshots, at base this can 2 burst anyway, which is just incredible. Obviously if you start stacking more and more stacks of swashbuckler, it just absolutely destroys people. It's ridiculous. So let's break down some tips for the knives. So again, I have made a video on these gauntlets and throwing knives before, so you can visit that video if you want to get a much more in-depth look at them. So one thing to note straight off the bat is you obviously get precision hits to proc the buff. The buff goes up to 30 seconds in total, so that gives you a 30-second window of having a one-hit kill throwing knife, which is insane. But as you can see in this gameplay here, sometimes you throw the knife and it misses, but the buff doesn't disappear when the knife is thrown. If the knife doesn't hit anybody, the buff stays up. But then, if you continue to hit precision hits, you keep reprocking the buff, keep taking it up to 30 seconds timer again and again, and you can keep that buff up until your knife recharges. With 100 strength, the weighted knife comes back within 40 odd seconds. So there's not many precision hits you need in that time to be able to have the buff still up when you actually get your knife back. Another massive tip is if someone's at point blank, you throw the knife at the floor to bounce it off a wall to then kill that target. Because of the travel time of that knife, if you dodge before that person actually dies, you'll get your knife back off that same target. So then you can have a knife back in your pocket, up and ready to go for either the next target or when you've got your strengthened knife buff back up. Because of how much damage these knives do, it's very easy to get super kills with this. So even if you don't hit the precision hit, most supers in the game will actually die to just the outright precision hit once you've got the strengthened knife buff up. But if you bounce it off the floor first and just get a body hit on somebody with either the pulse or especially the sidearm, with the amount of damage that they do anyway, you can get a very easy cleanup. There's a lot of times where you can shut down supers from around corners and stuff because they just don't expect it. It's awesome. You just bait them into a tight area and then ricochet the knife around the corner and then just charge them down. So when ricocheting the knife, you want to bounce it off the floor first and be wary of your angles. So like 45-degree angles and 30-degree angles, 90 degrees. These are all your best friends. You bounce it off the floor first and then it hits the wall on the second bounce. When it leaves the wall, it has increased aim assist and speed, so it just absolutely homes in on somebody and it's a guaranteed kill every time. It's also important to note that increased aim assist and the ricochet is there just by having these gauntlets equipped, so you don't need the knife buff up to be able to bounce the knife around corners and have that increased aim assist anyway. So you'll see in this gameplay, I can kill this titan that's behind his shield and end up getting the trade by ricocheting the knife and bouncing it around his shield even without the buff up. So these knives are incredibly potent and just so much fun to do. Bringing people into close quarters, into confined areas, so like hallways and rooms where there's lots of corners and stuff you can bounce the knives around, increases your success rate of the ricochet knife like tremendously. You obviously can use these just as you would normally by just directly hitting someone. So part of the learning curve is to know when you need to bounce it or when it's easier just to go straight for the target. So the biggest things to take away, crucial things to remember to get the most out of this build, is to keep an eye on your cooldowns. So this is crucial for knowing when you've got a knife up and when you can use it. Also for when you've not got a knife up, so you can then dodge and get your knife back by knowing if an enemy is close by. If an enemy is on the other side of a wall, you can still dodge to get your knife back, but you don't need line of sight to be able to do that. Again, knowing your angles and stuff to be able to bounce the knife around corners and whatnot. Also keeping an eye and a tally on the sheer amount of buffs you're going to have, because your screen's going to be full of like the practice makes perfect buff, as well as knock them down, and then perpetual motion possibly from your weapon, also the strengthened knife buff, charged with light, like it's going to be filled and it doesn't show them all at the same time, so you've just got to be aware of when the buff is up and when you can make the most out of whatever buff is up, if that makes sense. So knowing if you get a knife kill, you've got 10 seconds then for blunt executions to get the most of that. Also knowing if you've got a knife kill whilst your pulse rifle is out, you won't be able to swap to your sidearm to make the most of swashbuckler, so you might want to have your sidearm out beforehand. before getting the knife kill if you want to be able to activate swashbucklers specifically. Being aware of just keep strafing and not standing still so you don't lose the perpetual motion buff as well. Being aware that you only need a full single burst on either of your weapons to get strengthened knife buff up if you need it in like a clutch sort of moment. All of these things are just things to be aware of, and the game does sort of prompt you, but like I said, there's so many commands on the screen that you also need to be aware of what you've got up and what you've not. That should do it for the video, guys. Another long video today, but I really wanted to break this down because I've been absolutely loving this build. It sort of revitalized my love for the game in this period where there's not really much else going on whilst we're waiting for the next big DLC. Hopefully you've enjoyed this build. Please let me know in the comment section if you do try it out and if you've had any success with it. Also, if you have any questions or anything else, I'm more than happy to answer those down below. If you have enjoyed the video or you feel like you've learned something, please do like and share it and all that good stuff. It really does support more than you could possibly know. And I appreciate every single ounce of support that you guys give. Also, feel free to subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video, I can guarantee there'll be something else I've made that you'll enjoy. With all that being said, enjoy the build, slay out, stay safe and all that good stuff, and I shall catch you very soon indeed. Thanks again, guys. Bye.
Vicious. All of you together. I've only seen Athrys do better. Light versus light. That's two. So many hunters lost, but you honor them.